All right. How important is this first vision story? Well, I should let you translate.
Ahoana moa no tena mazava-dehibe an'iny tantara misy ny fitantaran'ny fahitana voalohany raisiny.
This is what one Mormon prophet and president said about this vision story.
Izao no ambaran'ity mpitarika anankiray ity eo amin'ny fiangonana mormona zany mikasika io tantara izay tantarain'ny Joseph Smith teo aloha io. Izao ny ambarany. Ny herintsika dia mitoetra eo ambonin'ny hery ananan'io fahitana io amin'ny hery somary hafahafa kely ty fandikateny. Na izy io nitsanga na tsy. Raha tsy dia fisandohana ihany ity asa ity.
So the question is, did this vision really happen?
Raha fitina zany dia fantanina ampiray hoe tena nitsanga tokoa ve io fahitana nitsanga tamin'ny Joseph Smith io.
What evidence do we have from history?
Inona moa porofananantsika eo ara-tantara hoe nitsangany zany zavatra zany?
Well, the evidence we have is this is the last of several versions of the story that Joseph Smith told.
Ny any porofanana dia zao hoe io no filaza farany amin'ireo karazany anankifito izay no tantarain'i Joseph Smith. Efa niovy impito izao tonga tamin'io farany io.
How much did the story change?
Dia ohatrany ahoana ny fiovan'io tantara io ary?
I'm going to give you a very quick review of all the changes in the story from the earliest versions that we have. Because this version here of the Father and the Son is the very last version that Joseph Smith told. And the Mormon Church decided to make this the official version. But here's how it started according to history. And all of these accounts come from people who were friendly or family of Joseph Smith. Or they were told by Joseph Smith himself. None of these stories come from his enemies. All right, so what do we have here? The earliest story comes from the father of Joseph Smith, who said that Joseph Smith was out looking for buried treasure one night. And while he was out looking, he discovered a stone box with a treasure inside. But when he opened the box, a frog or a toad appeared and turned into a man and knocked Joseph Smith down. And Joseph Smith was not able to get the gold plates for the Book of Mormon. Yes. At that moment, there was very little talk of the Book of Mormon. It was a treasure. See, what we have to understand is Joseph Smith and his father were treasure seekers. People would pay them money to try to find buried treasure on their property. In the United States at this time, there were people who believed that there were treasures that were buried guarded by spirits.
Tamin'ny fotoana andro izay tragazo tantara zao 1827 dia maro ny olona mily tamin'izany fotoana izany hoe misy arena miafina izay any ambany tany any izay misy fanahy miambina.
Treasure buried by pirates or Indians.
Na ireo arena ireo zany nalevina ina moa piraty amin'ny teny malagasy piraty any taloha zany dia nalevina izy ireo tany ambany tany.
And the pirates or the Indians would always kill a victim and bury them with the treasure.
Ny fanaovany azy zany tamin'izany fotoana zany na le indien na le porozy zany na le piraty izay manafina ny arena miafina dia manao karazana fetsiketsehana zay monony olona na anaovana sacrifice zany alohan'ny
So there would be
adevenany an'le arena miafina.
So there would be a spirit guarding the treasure.
Izay zany mahatonga hoe iny zany le voniny le fanahy miambina an'io arena miafina io.
So to get the treasure, you had to know how to fool the spirits.
Ka azahoanao an'le arena miafina zany dia mila hainao ny mamitaka an'io fanahy miambina azy io.
And you had to be able to see what the spirits were doing under the ground.
Dia mila hainao mila olona mavita mafantatra zany na mahita hoe inona le ataon'le fanahy miambina an'le arena miafina ao ambany tany ao.
Joseph Smith claimed he could do this.
Anisan'ny zavatra nolazainy Joseph Smith fa ataontsika hoe zavatra hainy atao zany zavatra zany.
So Joseph Smith would take a stone that he carried in his pocket,
Dia matetika moa izy zany manana vato zay entiny any paosiny any Joseph Smith io zany.
this is not a stone, it's
Io moa
just,
tsy vato fa ohatra zany raha isika eto.
but he would take the stone and put it in his hat.
Dia ataony ao anaty satroka tahaka izao zany le vato kely.
And then he would cover his face with his hat,
Dia ataony tahaka izao tapenany tahaka izao amin'ny satroka zany tarehany
and the stone would show him where the spirits were under the ground.
Dia ao zany ny ahitany aseho an'iny vato kely iny aminy ao anatin'iny zany hoe aiza ho aiza ao ambanin'ny tany ao sy inona ny ataon'le fanahy miambina le arena miafina.
And he would tell the men where to dig for the treasure.
Dia izy no miteny hoe eto lavahana fa ao ambaniny ao misy an'le arena miafina.
And they would pay Joseph Smith and his father for doing
Izay
this.
no anaovan'ny olona volaminy zany hoe hay olona fa zay zany ny asany.
But do you know how much treasure they ever found?
Fa fantatra hoe firy ny arena miafina efa hitan'izy ireo?
Zero. See? Nada. Why?
Nahoana no tsy misy?
Because something would happen wrong and the spirit would always take the treasure away under the ground.
Mahagaga fa eo ampanaovana azy dia ohatrany hoe misy zavatra ohatrany hitsanga foana dia vitan'le fanahy miambina an'io arena miafina io mandositra dia mitsoka miaraka amin'le arena miafina.
But they still had to pay Joseph and his
Fa
father.
efa nanao an'le asa izy dia noho izany dia tsy maintsy aloha amin'ny any ny vola.
So that is why the first stories of the treasure are about treasure digging.
Noho izany dia ny tantara voalohany elo zany momba n'ity fahitana ity ohatrany hoe momba mahakasika fikarohana arena miafina.
So that's the earliest story
Io ny tantara azo atao hoe voalohany indrindra zany fantatra mikasika an'izay
of how Mormonism got started.
hoe ny fiandohany ny fiangonana mormona zany.
There's no Jesus or God the Father, right?
Hatreto aloha ngamba tsisy mihitsy zany hoe
No.
Jesosy zany na Andriamanitra ray sa tsy zany.
Okay? What's the next version?
Inona ny zavatra nitranga faharoa?
Well, in the next version that Joseph Smith tells to a neighbor,
Dia eto indray zany zay tantara lazaina fa nambaran'ny Joseph Smith fa izy tena mihitsy tamina mpiaramonina taminy.
the neighbor is very religious.
Olona mpivavaka be io mpiaramonina amin'io zany.
So Joseph says while he is looking for treasure, an angel tells him about the
Zao
treasure.
fambarany dia hoe tamin'izy mikaroka arena miafina ao izy dia nisy anjely niseho taminy.
So now the toad is gone.
Efa niova indray aloha zany le tantara eto zany.
The spirit is gone.
Efa laza tsisy an'le izy teo le sobakaka ntsony tsisy an'le olona fanahy any ntsony io tsisy an'izay ntsony.
Now there's an angel because that sounds much better.
Anjely indray aloha zany satria mahafinaritra kokoa miaino an'izay ngamba.
Okay? 3 years later,
Telo taona taorianan'izay
the story changes again.
niova sady indray le tantara.
Now Joseph says he is praying and an angel comes to him and tells him about the treasure.
Laza zany dia zao amin'izay hoe teo am-pivavahana izy no nisehoany ilay anjely.
Why is this important?
Ina moa mazava-dehibe an'izany?
Because in 1830, Joseph has started a new church.
Satria tamin'io taona io no nanomboa ny fiangonana vaovao.
And he is the prophet and leader of the church.
Ary izy no mpitarika sy atao hoe mpaminany zany fiangonana zany.
And prophets and leaders shouldn't be digging for treasure.
Dia mazava ho azy fa raha hoe mpitarika fiangonana zany na hoe mpaminany zany tsy dia tena hoe any amin'ny fikaroana rena miafina loatra angambany.
So
Nisy azy.
that part is gone from the story.
Zany dia nasolona tamin'ny tantara zany izay zavatra izay aloha.
Okay? The next version we have is 1832.
Ny fomba fitantarana fa manaraka dia tamin'ny taona 20
In 1832, Joseph starts writing the story the first time himself.
Tamin'io no nanomboa Joseph Smith nanoratra n'ilay tantara. Izy mihitsy nanoratra azy zany.
And in this version, Joseph Smith claims he is not looking for treasure.
Ary amin'ny ao anatin'io tantara io dia ny fambalana Joseph Smith dia hoe tsy nitady arena miafina velively izy a.
He's concerned about his sin.
Fa dia mahatsiaro sy mahatsapa tena ny amin'ny fahotana vitany izy.
So he goes to the woods to pray.
Ary dia noho izany dia nandeha tany anatin'ny ala izy hivavaka.
And Jesus appears to tell him his sins are forgiven.
Dia niseho tamin'i Jesosy hanambara aminy fa voavela ny elony.
Even Mormon historians call this the strange account.
Dia na dia ny mpanao tantara na mpahay tantara mormona dia milaza an'ity tantara anankiray hoe ilay tantara hafahafa.
Because it doesn't match anything.
Satria tsisy zavatra azo afanarahana mihitsy zany eo amin'ny heverina ho zava-misy na porofo ananana.
In 1834, the story changes again.
Dia niova zany tantara io tamin'ny taona 430 sy 430.
In this version, Joseph is in his bedroom praying, and an angel comes to tell him about the Book of Mormon. In In 1835, the story changes again. Now it's just not one angel, now it's many angels that come and appear to Joseph Smith. In 1835, he tells the story again to a different person. And in this one again, it's the story of an angel appearing and then many angels appearing to Joseph. Then finally, in 1838, the story changes again. In this version, there is no toad, there's no spirit, and there's no treasure. And in this story, there's not even angels. In this story, God the Father and Jesus both come to Joseph Smith in a vision. This is the best version ever. And this is the version that becomes the official version. But how much can we believe people who tell stories and change their stories? You look at all these changes to finally get to here. And there is no other evidence for this story. Nobody else even hears of this story until Joseph talks about it almost 18 years after it supposedly happens. That to me is evidence that Joseph Smith was a very good storyteller, but he was not a prophet.
Raha ny zavatra ambarany zany amiko dia zao hoe Joseph Smith dia mpahay tantara ary tena mahay mitantara, mana-talenta amin'ny tantara, saingy tsy mpaminany kosa izy.
So, what do we do with all the stories of the angels?
Inona ary ny azo inona zany atao inona fotsiny le tantara momba misy anjely.
Joseph claims that 3 years later, he had the vision of the angel.
Dia zao indray ny ataony hoe taorianan'io révélation officielle zany, telo taona taorianan'io dia tena nahita anjely tokoa izy.
So, he adds a second vision to his story.
Dia eo no nahitany amin'ny antsoina hoe fahitana faharoa zany. Dia ampiny an'izay fahitana faharoa zay ny tantarany.
Now, we have a warning in Scripture about this sort of thing.
Mazava fa amin'ny soratra masina dia misy fampitandremana izay tonga amintsika.
In Galatians 1:6-8, the Apostle Paul says, "Do not believe anyone who brings you a different gospel, even if it's an angel."
Dia ny zavatra ambarana dia zao hoe na anjely aza miseho aminareo dia aza mino azy raha mitovy filazantsara hafa noho izao izy. Io moa ilay andininy.
What about Joseph Smith's personal life?
Mbola nisy ihany koa voalaza teo ny amin'ny fiainany manokana.
And again, all this has been documented